In today's video, we are sharing 3 very scary true summer night horror stories. So let's get into it. No. 3. The Graveyard Guest. I was 19 when I worked the late shift at Benny's Subs. It was a rundown sandwich shop on the edge of town. We made decent money from the lunch rush at the high school down the road, but after 3 p.m., it was a ghost town. The pay was garbage, the hours sucked, and the smell of stale bread and old meat clung to my clothes no matter how many times I washed them. But it was a job, and in a town like ours, you took what you could get. Most nights were dead. The kind of quiet where you could hear the hum of the fridge and the occasional buzz of a fly bouncing against the window. But one night, around 11:30, the order printer spat out a ticket. A large Italian sub with extra peppers and a side of pickles. The address was weird. It was way out past the old mill, where the street lights ended and the trees swallowed the road. I didn't want to take it. Something about the name on the order, M. Vass, sent a chill down my spine. But my manager, a guy named Rick, who always smelled like cigarettes and bad decisions, shoved the bag into my hands and told me to quit stalling. I grabbed the bag, punched in the address, and got in my car. The drive was longer than it should have been. The GPS kept glitching, rerouting me down narrow back roads that didn't look familiar. I wasn't even sure I was on the right roads. And the closer I got to the delivery address, the more uneasy I felt. By the time I reached the address, my headlights were the only light for miles. The house was a crumbling 2-story with a sagging porch and windows so dark they looked painted black. The faded paint on the door was peeling like sunburned skin. I hesitated for a moment, considering turning around, but I couldn't. I needed this delivery. The delivery instructions were specific. Leave the food on the porch swing. Do not knock. Do not wait. I put the car in park, grabbed the bag, got out, and walked up the creaking steps. The porch swing swayed gently in the breeze. It looked like an abandoned playground, rusted and overgrown. I set the bag down, turned to leave, and that's when I heard it, a slow, deliberate creak of the porch swing moving behind me. I didn't look back. I just ran to my car, slammed it into reverse, and peeled out of there. I floored it, turning onto the main road and heading away from the house. The image of the porch swing and the sound of its movement echoed in my mind. When I got back to the shop, Rick was gone. The lights were off, the door locked. My phone had no missed calls, no texts. The next morning when I came in for my shift, Rick acted like nothing had happened. He swore we never got an order for M. Voss, and when I checked the system, the ticket was gone. It was like the whole thing had been a figment of my imagination, except for the lingering smell of Italian sub that still clung to my clothes. I worked there for another week before I quit, but the memory of that night lingered. Sometimes when I'm driving late at night, I swear I see a figure standing under a streetlight, holding a paper bag, watching me pass by. No. 2. Camping horror. I went camping with some friends. It was the first time I'd ever been, and I didn't know what to expect. We were staying at a campsite deep in the woods, far from the sounds of civilization. On the first night, we set up camp, built a fire, and roasted marshmallows. As the night wore on and the fire died down, we started telling scary stories. One of my friends, Chris, suggested we try urban exploration, checking out abandoned houses and buildings in the area. We found an old abandoned house and explored the dusty rooms, the floorboards creaking under our feet. As we moved through the house, we discovered a diary in what used to be the child's room. It detailed the life of a young girl who lived in the house over 100 years ago. Her entries spoke of playing in the woods, exploring the creek, and reading by the light of the oil lamp. As I read the last entry, I realized with a jolt that today was her birthday, the same day we were exploring the house. We decided to head back to camp, but as we walked through the woods, the playful mood from earlier evaporated. The darkness seemed to press in on us, and the rustling leaves sounded like whispers. Then we saw it. In the distance, what looked like a small cottage materialized from the trees. It was too small to be a house, but the windows were glowing with a warm light. We stood there debating whether to investigate. Curiosity warred with common sense. Chris, being the adventurous one, suggested we check it out. We cautiously approached the cottage. As we drew closer, we could hear the faint sounds of singing and laughter. It felt like we had stumbled upon a secret hidden world. Chris knocked on the door, but there was no answer. We tried the handle. It was unlocked. We stepped inside to find a cozy living room with a fire crackling in the hearth. Books lined the shelves, and comfortable chairs were scattered around the room. But something was off. There were no decorations, no furniture, no signs of life. It was like the inhabitants had vanished into thin air. Then we heard it again, the sound of singing. It was coming from upstairs. We followed the sound and found a staircase hidden behind a bookshelf. We climbed the stairs and came across a door. The singing was louder now. We hesitated outside the door, unsure of what to expect. Chris, being the daredevil he is, threw open the door and stepped inside. The room was dimly lit, and all we could see were 3 rocking chairs in the corner. They were swaying gently back and forth, and the singing seemed to be coming from them. We watched in disbelief as the chairs rocked slowly, rhythmically. The singing was haunting, and it felt like the room was growing colder. Suddenly, one of the chairs stopped rocking, and we saw the faint outline of a woman sitting in it. She turned her head slowly and stared at us. Her eyes were wide and empty, and her mouth was twisted into a silent scream. She beckoned to us with a finger. Then she vanished. We screamed and ran, stumbling down the stairs and out of the house. We didn't stop running until we reached our own campsite. Safe at our campfire, we huddled together, trying to calm our racing hearts. The silence of the forest seemed to mock us, and every rustle of leaves made us jump. We didn't sleep much that night, and we packed up and left as soon as we could the next morning. Now, whenever I hear a song that reminds me of that night, my blood runs cold, and I can't help but glance over my shoulder at the empty rocking chair. No one. Vanishing hitchhiker. I was 18 and driving home from a friend's house around 1 a.m. in the 4-lane highway. It was summer, so the windows were down and the music was loud. Suddenly, a young woman in her early 20s with long flowing hair and a white dress appeared beside my car hitchhiking. Her dress was dirty, and she had a backpack with her. She looked desperate. I rolled down my window and asked her if she wanted a ride. She jumped in without hesitation. I asked her where she was headed, but she didn't answer. She was quiet the entire ride, which made me uncomfortable. I wanted to drop her off, but I couldn't. I felt a strange sense of responsibility for her. After about 20 minutes, I started to relax a bit. I asked her again where she wanted to go, and she finally replied, "Next exit." At the next exit, she thanked me profusely and said, "Here's my number. Call me sometime." I nodded and drove away. As I drove, I couldn't shake the feeling that something was wrong. I glanced in the rearview mirror and saw her standing on the side of the road waving. I slowed down, assuming she had dropped something. But when I stopped and rolled down my window, she looked at me and said, "You didn't pick me up." I was confused. I had picked her up. I asked her why she was waving then, and she replied, "I thought you could help me. I need your help." She began knocking on my window frantically, and I rolled it back up. Horrified, I sped away. I didn't look back. I drove for what felt like hours until I finally stopped at a gas station. Shaking and scared, I called the police to report the incident. They took my statement but seemed skeptical. I insisted I was telling the truth, but they didn't believe me. They said I probably imagined the whole thing. I never saw her again, but sometimes I wonder if she's still out there, hitchhiking in the night, waiting for someone to take her ride. And the scariest part, I never received a call from her. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed the video, please subscribe and leave a like. Also, be sure to share your thoughts below. See you in the next one.